The Teeples portfolio hit another all-time high in January, finishing the month up about $43,000 from our last update. And this month was a good reminder of why I stick to a balanced portfolio, as Mr. Market has been a little extra moody lately. In this video, we'll walk through the portfolio and see what kind of cash flow this thing spit out in January. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Jeff Teeples, and here we aim to grow your wealth with simple, time-tested solutions. If you like this stuff, then prove it by tapping the like button. And one more quick thing before we dive in. Seeking Alpha is running a Valentine's Day sale through February 15th. You can use my link in the pinned comment to save some money if you've been waiting for a good deal. I use Seeking Alpha every day, and I think it's by far the best online tool for investors. Not a sponsor, by the way. You know what time it is. Let's grow. Less but better. My wife and I literally filled up a dumpster when we cleaned our shop this fall. Afterward, I felt lighter and more focused, and that feeling started bleeding into other parts of my life. Being more intentional has meant fewer possessions, fewer obligations, and a higher level of happiness, measured by my inner scorecard. And that same mindset applies to this channel. I'm not interested in pushing out more videos to keep an algorithm happy. I'm going to focus on creating content that I want to share with the world. With that in mind, let's jump into this portfolio. Portfolio overview. A quick reminder before we dive in. Free copies of these spreadsheets are linked in the description below if you want to track your own progress or follow along. All right, let's get into this thing. And we're going to start out at my favorite broker, and that's E-Trade, where we hold the majority of our assets. I think E-Trade has by far and away the cleanest interface compared to things like Fidelity. Ugh, it's painful. And I mention this every month, but I think it's worth it, especially if you're new here. I do keep SCHD and VGT entirely in retirement accounts between a Roth and a traditional. And then QQQI and BTCI is entirely in a taxable, and that's because it is tax-free in the current year dividends. And what it does is it returns capital to reduce your price paid, your cost basis, and you pay zero taxes in the year that you receive the dividend. And then long term, when I continue to reinvest and eventually sell this, it'll be long-term capital gains, which is essentially qualified dividends. So it is an absolute tax hack to have QQQI and BTCI and all those NEO funds, any of the other ones you like. SPYI, the S&P 500 one, not the NASDAQ 100 like I prefer, is the other popular one. And I'm actually not going to cover all these details here as far as shares and price and value, because we're going to jump out and do that in Seeking Alpha. I'll save you a little time of hearing everything twice. Our total assets out here in E-Trade are $1,032,000. Now, I mention this every month. He's officially opened his own Roth. We just have to finish the rollover. But this is my nephew's S&P 500 fund here from Schwab for $4,500. So this does not roll into Seeking Alpha, where I do my portfolio aggregation and all my stock and ETF research and all my screens, pretty much everything. It's the best. Let's pop out there now. And out in Seeking Alpha here, you can see that we are at an all-time high of $1,742,500 here. That was a pretty cool milestone, and we will see it on the spreadsheet that we hop over to next. Looking out here under all portfolios, you'll find all of our assets. This ETF section here is most of the stuff you just saw in E-Trade, plus we have VUG, which is my wife's HSA. It's the best investment available there. So we'll start here with SCHD. We have 15,209 shares at an average cost of $26.41. My true average cost is under $20, but I've moved this around multiple times over the years. And that has a total value of $453,500. And then next is QQQI. This is my favorite cash flowing position because I love the NASDAQ 100. QQQM is one of my favorite investments. Needing cash flow now after I quit my high paying job, QQQI was a great pivot from QQQM. But regardless, I love the NASDAQ 100 as my favorite multi-sector growth index in general. And we have 5,725 shares worth a total of $308,000. $100,000. Now we hop over to VGT. I've held this for quite a while, and we're clocking in with 300 shares of VGT at an average cost of $228 a share. It's pretty wild, and it's worth almost $225,000. And then VUG is our HSA that we fund along with a nice little company bump each year from Boeing. And we have just over 103 shares worth $49,900. And then BTCI is my other cash flowing one, Bitcoin. It's my wild card play. I don't add to these shares. We sit at 1,000 shares with an average cost of $52.55. So clearly that's dropped a lot, which means this has comfortably outperformed IBIT, where the money was parked. So it's actually been a positive move, believe it or not. And it's worth a total of $41,490. Now the next one here, VU, the S&P 500 from Vanguard, is our largest holding. And this is her 401k at Boeing that we've been working on for many years. And mine was also in VU when I worked in Boeing before I rolled it over. And we can see here that she is up to 880 shares of VU, worth nearly $560,000. Again, our largest holding. And the HODL Factory, saying that in quotes, is 20 individual stocks that in my portfolio that I maintain. And it's worth $34,590. And then our cash is mostly SGov and some high yield savings accounts and a couple other miscellaneous things, is clocking in at just over $70,000. That's the portfolio at a high level, but let me show you a few more details about the HODL Factory. I opened up the HODL stats spreadsheet, which I have available for free, link in the description below, if you want to follow along and see how my individual stocks do. And if you want to have a little more fun with it, you can compete directly with me as well. I update this performance weekly. VU is our measuring stick for some high-level stats here, and we like to beat the dividend growth rate. We like to have a higher yield and then a lower PE ratio to come in with some nice value. And you can see we're doing pretty well in those metrics. But really these time-weighted returns, so this is total returns from something like Seeking Alpha, are tracked here. And the main competition for the HODL is VU, the S&P 500, probably the truest US market, VT, the world market. It's like the VTI of the entire world, essentially. And then Burke.B. I know Buffett's not running this anymore, but he's a legend. He's my hero, and I always like to see how I compare to Burke.B on the side. And you can see that 23, 24, and 25 are in the books. I'll just touch on 2026. We're off to a hot start. Again, as of 1:30, even with that negative day you just saw in Seeking Alpha, we're up 5.29%. And second place is actually VT at a solid 3.11. The market VU is up 1.45, so nothing crazy. And then Berkshire is actually down 4.4%, which is kind of wild. And when you zoom out since inception of the HODL Factory, and again, this 2023 is not a full year. This is just the returns in 23 since inception from 414. We have the HODL being up about 90%. Second place in that time duration is VU, 74. So we've crushed the market pretty well here. VT is up a solid 65.5. And Berkshire Hathaway has struggled up just over 50%. And then I also have all of our favorite tickers we talk about on this channel a lot here, and the return performance versus the HODL Factory. And this one just tracks through the end of 2025. I update this once a year. It'd be a little tedious to do it all the time. But these right here are updated fresh every week with the real data. So follow along and see if you can beat me. I dare you. All right, but that's enough of all that. So out to the spreadsheet. This is where the magic happens, baby. You can see that the balance here will match what we had in Seeking Alpha because I'm recording this on Sunday when the market's closed on February 1st. And this is just copying all the values over from Seeking Alpha at the time, a snapshot. I choose not to put the shares here. I like to see the changes. I'm a weirdo. But you can see that there's that $1,742,500. And the first tab I like to touch on here is the allocations tab. This is a cool one because we hold these assets, as you saw, in different places For example, VU is with Boeing, and a lot of these ETFs are in E-Trade, and then you have cash is at JP Morgan. That's where we hold SGov. And I like to bring them all together to see my real allocations at a high level, and I highly recommend that. Never do your balancing based on one individual online broker if you have multiple. You have to look at it holistically. VU is our largest position. It's 32% of our portfolio, and you can see Cornerstone, it's the only one. So we'll knock out both of these as we go. This is just the asset allocation, and this is by individual holding. So these are one and the same at 32% core holding, Cornerstone, foundational, whatever your name for it is. Same concept with SCHD is 26 and value is 26. It's the only one in that category. Now for cash flow, it's actually just straight across. QQQI is at about 17.7% of the portfolio. Growth is where we get a little more creative. We have to add up VGT and VUG because this is the HSA and this is my choice in E-Trade. So when we add up our growth, we're at 15.7%. Now it might look like growth is too light compared to value, but really our cash flow is primarily growth with the NASDAQ 100 holdings. So they have a high PE ratio and they're a little more risky, even though the cash flows, so it has a little downside protection compared to QQQM, and then it caps the ceiling, so it's not as good long term. But if you need cash now, it's solid. But it is growth oriented, so technically you could kind of merge these together, and you find that we're actually probably a little growth heavy. But I'm happy with the mix because I feel like I get some value, I say that in quotes, with the cash flow of QQQI. And again, it's tax free in the year you receive it, the vast majority of it. Our cash is back up to 4%. We've been working on this. It's tough. I did move it over to Chase. That's why you didn't see anything in E-Trade. I used to have it in VMFXX. I decided to go SGov just for timing purposes, be able to move it right over to checking. It's nice to have all the cash things in Chase, but it's at 70K and we'd like to get it up to about 5%. We're still a little shy. We did a lot of portfolio shuffling if you've been following the channel. When I officially retired and my wife is still working, we need that cash flow to supplement her income right now. And this was a necessary change. It created some long-term capital gains, SCHD, a bunch of stuff as I moved it around. So here we are, but our cash is slowly getting up there again. And then Bitcoin is just the BTCI. I like that for my Bitcoin exposure at 2.4. I'm fine with that. I'm just gonna stick with the 1,000 shares. And then the HODL Factory, that's my YouTube money, y'all. So you're making this possible right here, is at 34,590. I do $100 each and every week to it, and it's up to 2%. It's funny, it started at 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Fast forward, what am I? Almost 3 years into YouTube, wow. And it's up to 2%, so we're really chipping away here. I love it. And that makes up the entire 1.7 million. Now out here on the snapshots, this is fun just to see anything green is an all-time high. And I love this just for zooming out. You know, when we scroll way up, no all-time high for a long time in this zone. From December 6th through summer almost on July 18th. So it's crazy, but then you hit a whole bunch before that and you can just see how the market works. I'll show you something more wild. See big gaps, you just stay the course. Buy to your target allocations. When growth is beat up, you buy it because value is high. And then sometimes it's the other way around. Growth is going to the moon and you buy value. You're always buying that comparative dip if you stay the course. But check this out. From April 1st, 22, I didn't have another all-time high for over a year. A newer investor might have doubt creep in when you're dipping way down into the 800,000s after crossing the million threshold. But think about all those juicy dips that ultimately paid off. You just keep buying. Never panic sell. Remain a buyer in all markets and keep that portfolio balanced. That's the moral of the story. Oh, and out to the portfolio value by month. I love this one. You talk about chilling and zooming out. You can see we have the blue bar for 2022, orange bars for 23, green for 24, purple is the last complete year of 25, and we're just getting in here to the red bars. We're on fire this year. Hopefully that is a good thing. And you can see that in January, we are crushing last year and the year before and the year before. Get a nice clean staircase here. But I'm eyeballing you 2 milli. Not this year. I mean, I'm not going to get crazy. You know, we probably dip a little, go up, dip a little. You saw the flow, but we're going to get there soon. Soon-ish. Okay, just give it to me. But I love just zooming out and seeing that everything's okay. You lose 25 grand in a week, it hurts, you feel like you gotta scramble and panic. Nope, keep buying, stay the course, and these bars will continue to pile up over the years. And I can't leave until covering this last tab, of course. This is a cool one. So I assume an 8% nominal return, not including inflation. I'm conservative by 2% from the 100-year average. And it looks like we'll cross that 2 million in 2 years, 2.5 in 4, and that magical 3 million in 6, and really probably 5.5 if you look at these numbers. But what I like to do here, we have our contributions. These are a lot of company matches. And then my small HODL Factory one on M1 Finance, our current value, and then it runs the math. And this matches up with online calculators. You can audit me if you would like. But really the coolest module is this retirement calculator. Goal is 3 million. In 4.1 years of tracking, actual tracking, no assumptions, our lifetime CAGR has been 17.1%. This includes budgeting, buying cars, saving money, investing bonuses. This isn't just the returns themselves from the assets. This is all things considered, the net math, up 17%. If we continue this pace, it would be 3.4 years, and it would be July 10th, 2029 when we hit 3 million. Will these change? Absolutely. Is it fun to track them real time? You betcha. And now it's time for my favorite section. Dividends received. It wasn't raining dividends like it did in December, but January was still a strong month. Let's check it out. We are out on the dividend tab here on the portfolio tracker, and you can see that I sliced out 2023 and I added 2026 with these data slicers. I love that about Excel pivot tables. It makes it so easy to track all the data, and we're pulling all months, of course. Now here in January, in 2026, we received a juicy $4,769 dollars compared to only $1,585 in 2025. Now, of course, I'll expand this actually. We ramped up after I left my job and started making these YouTube videos and being a stay-at-home dad and changing our life flow. We really needed the money, and we ramped it up immensely with $3,608 of QQQI and over $1,000 of BTCI in January alone. However, the HODL Factory did have a nice little jump here. We're in the minor leagues as far as the actual numbers, but the increase was nice, $22 compared to about $10 last year. And then you can see we no longer have JEPQ. That basically became QQQI for the tax-free dividends in the taxable account. And VMFXX became SGov. And you're probably thinking, well, that's weird. How does your HSA only have $95 this month? SGov doesn't pay a dividend in January. Kind of goofy. It pays a couple in February. So this VMFXX, and I had more to be fair back then, it is mostly an SGov now, and it's nowhere to be found in January. So all I have is my smaller random HSAs pumping out of some dividends here, but we're actually light in January, and that is an SGov, SGOV. Short-term treasuries, like 0 to 3 months, I believe. It's a great holding. It mirrors the returns of VMFXX. This is an awesome money market, but I just love having instant access to my money all there in Chase, where I do my checking as well. But you add it all up, and it's a huge month. You can see in 2025, we hit 53,000 compared to 35,000 the year before, and we're going to obliterate that unless something crazy happens here in 2026 with our QQQI and BTCI. It'll be fun to see what we can get this number up to. And I look forward to that journey with all of you. Thanks for joining me for another portfolio update. I'm not making these videos for some weird flex online. My hope is that sharing my journey will help you find your own path towards your financial freedom. I'm just a regular guy, and I want to show you that sticking to a simple, consistent investing plan can get you to where you want to go. And speaking of people in all the right places, I want to give a huge shout out to you 33 awesome channel members. You keep me motivated, you keep these videos coming, and you make this a heck of a lot more fun. And particularly, a big shout out to CS Deeds and Dino Martin for rejoining this month. We didn't have any brand new members, but I have my 33 warriors, and you are much appreciated. And check out one of these 2 videos to continue down your path towards financial freedom. Remember, money is overrated. Freedom is not. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.